Welcome back to Chat Shit. We've ranked the 10 most improved players in the AFL in 2024. We've each done our own rankings, we haven't consulted, and we're going to each go down from 10 to 1 and see what we thought. Aiden, kick us off.
This was a really tough ranking. I had 15 guys that I really wanted to squeeze into my 10 spots.
I had exactly 15 as well.
I was debating so much, especially with the 9th and 10th, because I was going to have to leave out a few names. But yeah, I'll start off with my number 10. I had Ed Richards.
Yep.
As my 10th most improved player this year. To do what he did, because he was a good half-backman. We all knew that before. I think we talked about it a couple of seasons ago that we wanted him at the Swans. He's like a Swans product off half-back. But then to do what he did in the midfield this year, off the back of not playing midfield before, to help the likes of Bontempelli, Liberatore, Treloar, to almost having an all-Australian midfield season is unbelievable for me.
My first draft of this list, I had Ed Richards in 10, and then you know what I thought? He's not even in my just missed, because I thought we kind of knew how good this guy was, but he was in the back line, and I think he's done an amazing job of transitioning, but he has been so impressive since he was drafted, and I thought, I don't know how much he's really improved, probably deserves to be in there in one of our lists, so I'm very happy you've got him there. Number 10, I've got Chad Warner.
Oh, okay.
We saw a glimpse of it in the grand final 2022, that he was the only guy that could hold his head high for the Swans, but he sort of had a down year last year. There were predictions that he would be the Brownlow medalist last year from Damien Barrett and others. Had a bit of a down year, and he's shown this year, he's proven to the doubters that he can not just have talent, he can have a good work rate, and he can be consistent throughout a whole year. It's very rare that a midfielder can have a 30-goal season averaging 25.
He just didn't make my top 10, but he was also on my radar.
Really?
I'll go to my number 9. I had Tristan Cherry as my 9th most improved. A bull of a ruckman. A guy that was being talked about for all Australian, came from absolutely nowhere, was pretty much a no-name coming into this season. And he almost was the all-Australian ruck. A few more weeks going on, he could have been our all-Australian ruckman in 2024.
Yep.
And I think North have a real project with him as the ruckman for the next few years.
The X-Man will be discussed later. At number 9, I've got Josh Tracy, who it's very difficult to find consistent and good key forwards specifically. And Freo have got one. It's been an issue for them. They've got a bit from Jai Miss over the last few years, but Josh Tracy I think has stood out as their key forward for the future. From a 15 goal season last year to about 45 this year, it's just been a rapid improvement.
100%. Exactly what Freo needed, Matt's big key forward. I've got him a little bit higher, so I'll talk about it a bit later. My 8th most improved player, I had Mac Andrew as my 8th most improved player, and he's been rewarded with one of the biggest contract, if not the biggest contract we've ever seen in the AFL. You might think it's a little bit low, but I think he's still got a lot more to give, and I don't think he was absolutely unbelievable. I think if he was to be an all-Australian defender, he'd probably be number 1, number 2, number 3 on my list. But I think there are guys who improved more than he did.
Yeah. Mac Andrew will be discussed much later. At number 8, I've got a guy that I don't reckon was on your radar. I've got Jai Caldwell. Is he around for you?
He was not around for me, no.
Okay. I think the Essendon had a bit of a midfield resurgence this year when they did look good. Jai Caldwell was an absolute standout between him and Sam Durham, who just missed out on my list. Jai Caldwell is an absolute bull. He averaged about 7 tackles, one of the best tacklers in the league, while also being a strong ball winner, just a really all-round midfielder that I think is here to stay in that Essendon midfield. And he was really just like a fringe player that could sort of struggle to get into their 22 last year. I thought it was a massive improvement.
I like it. But speaking of Sam Durham, and my number 7 most improved player, I've got him in there. To go from almost a no-name mid-season draft pickup to probably a top 20, top 30 midfielder in the competition, a guy that's going to be with Essendon with merit for years to come, hopefully lead them to a finals berth for the first time in 20-odd years. I think he just had an unbelievable season. And what he did with so little expectation, he just exceeded that greatly. So, I think he was 7th most improved player this season.
I've gone rogue for my number 7. I've picked a guy whose stats have gone down, but his impact has shot up. It's James Jordan. He has become one of the best 2 or 3 taggers in the competition. And can I tell you, I think he is one of the most important and impactful players on the Swans. When has he made a mistake this year, man? he really is such a solid player. He just kicks goals from 50 out on the boundary. He's done it about 5 times this year and has just become a player that just plays his role so perfectly, fits into a premiership winning system, hopefully, so well, and just is a coach's dream the way he just does exactly what the team needs him to do.
I like it. I didn't have him on my list. I think his best role is as a tagger, because he also makes the tagger work really hard. Because when he goes the other way, we see what he can do, especially with the kick to Braden Campbell in that fourth quarter, under huge pressure to get him behind. I think it was Himmelberg. So yeah, he can do it. He can do it both ways. I like that pick because I didn't have him. My number 6 is someone you probably don't have, but I've got Meek Monday, Lloyd Meek.
I love it.
As my number 6. A guy that probably wasn't expected by anyone to be a number 1 ruck this year. It was supposed to be Reeves. At least we expected. Hawthorn probably expected it to be Reeves. But I think he's been a massive part of what Hawthorn have been able to do this year.
Can't tell you nothing wrong with Reeves. He's played well when he's played. But
100%.
Meek's just shot up way above him.
Meek's come from nowhere, and I think when he came into the league, as in we saw him in Supercoach as a potential 5-6 week guy who could make you a bit of cash, but he's there as one of the best ruckmen in the competition. Massive guy his follow up work is great. He's really good with his hands for being such a tall guy. His kicking is good. It's just I didn't expect this from him. I didn't know who he was before this season, and to be one of the best ruckmen in the competition now, from not knowing who he was before the season started, for me that's a lot of improvement.
Yep, he was sitting behind Sean Darcy for a few years at Freo, and now coming to the Hawks, he's got his opportunity and more of an open ruck spot, and he has absolutely taken it with both hands and has become a star. At number 6, I've gone Charlie Comben. What a player he is. There are certain guys that in the aerial contest just completely really stand out. You've got your Isaac Heaney's, your Charlie Combens, maybe a guy like Levi Casbolt, and Charlie Comben is really up amongst those guys. Unstoppable in the air sometimes. You can, like, in the future, I have no clue if he'll long term be a full forward or a full back, but he'll be one of them and he'll be very good either way. In the air, he is really hard to stop and good with his feet as well. So Charlie Comben shot up this year.
I like it. He was one of the ones that just missed out for me in my list. He'll be a huge player in the next few years. My 5th most improved player was Massimo D'Ambrosio, a guy who you think should have made All-Australian, who a lot of the people think should have made All-Australian. But I've just got a couple stats from his 2023 season. He played 8 games, averaged just 11 disposals a game. Now he's played 24 games, he's played a full season, averaging 21 disposals a game, and been huge in the last few weeks. I didn't think he had his greatest game against Port Adelaide in a high-pressure game, but his kicking ability, his ability to kick goals, find targets under huge amounts of pressure was massive for me. This guy wasn't on my radar at all last year.
Yeah, Massimo's another player that I've got higher on the list. And
not surprised at all.
I think he's just an absolute star. He's not just a guy that's accumulating more disposals. He's an unbelievable ball user. At number 5, I've got Jesse Hogan. How can you be a guy who was the 3rd or 4th leading goal scorer in the comp last year and still be one of the most improved players in the competition? Well, he's become, I would argue, a top 5 player in the comp. That's how good he is. He's just by far the best forward. It's so hard to stop in the air. He just reads it so well, has some of the stickiest hands in the competition, and he's a straight arrow kick for goal. What more can you want from a key forward? Brings it to every contest, and he's one of the best going around now.
100%. I've got him a tiny bit higher. But my number 4, 4th best player, I had Josh Tracy. You had a little bit lower. But I saw this guy last year and the past few years he's played in the footy as someone that probably wasn't going to make it. Someone that Freo wouldn't be able to rely on. It was him and Taberner leading the Freo line, and we know Taberner just got delisted from the Freo Dockers. I thought a few years ago Tracy was going to go down that exact same road, but yeah, to go from 15 goals to 45 goals in one season, now a massive target inside 50, defenders worry about him. That's just massive improvement for me. I think kicking goals, like, I know it's obvious to say, but it's one of the hardest things to do in footy. And to go to triple the amount of goals you kick and have a huge impact on your side, that's massive improvement for me.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. Number 4, I've got Tristan Xerri, who you had a little bit lower. We both thought he should have been the All-Australian ruckman. I think he was the best ruckman in the league this year. We sort of saw early on and a bit last year as well. He's this huge, strong, powerful guy that can just sort of be a bit of a bulldozer inside. he's shown he's got some finesse and some real good footy smarts this year. And he just had a consistent year where he sort of dominated all over the ground. And to just come from nowhere like that, just a ruckman wearing headgear, getting laughed at a bit, amazing stuff. I thought he was the 4th most improved.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of him. Wouldn't be surprised if he's an All-Australian ruckman in his career at some point. My number 3 had a guy we've already talked about, in Jesse Hogan. But yes, he was a very good player, kicked 49 goals last year. But to now be the best player in the competition, winning the Coleman by
best player in the competition?
No, sorry, best forward in the competition. Kicking 77 goals this season, winning the Coleman by quite some way. It's a massive jump, breaking the record for most contested marks in a single season. One of the most feared, if not the most feared, forward when a team comes up in the competition. I didn't see this at all. Like, I saw he was going to be a good forward. He probably kicked 40 to 50 goals again for a few more years. But to go and kick 77, and his back half was a lot better than his front half.
Yep. So
if he continues this way, he can kick a lot more than 77 goals.
First ever player to win a Coleman and a Rising Star in their career.
Wow.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
First ever player. In my number 3, I've got Mac Andrew. And I know he didn't get the accolades or like get considered for the accolades like a Tristan Sherry who was on the brink of the Australian team. But geez, this guy is going to be one of the best players in the comp. Between him and Sam Darcy, they're just going to tear apart the league when it comes to the key positions. Mac Andrew offered one of the biggest contracts in AFL history. And it's because of the season he had this year. Come from pretty much obscurity, just a guy that's known to be freakishly athletic and have this sort of raw talent. And now we've shown that he is a serious defender and a serious forward. They chucked him forward. He kicked a winning goal and kicked 3 crucial goals in that game against Essendon, I believe it was. And he is just phenomenal.
I'll move on to my number 2, second most improved player this year. I have Jake Waterman. He's kicked more goals this year than he has in the last 4 years combined. He's struggled with injury. Like, he's kicked 53 goals this year. Last year he kicked 11 goals and was really struggling for fitness. I read an article that he might not have even played footy this season. He had a real struggle in the hospital with gastro. And to come out and be all Australian as a forward, to lead a struggling West Coast team, and the ball doesn't come in as much, which means you really have to clunk and take your opportunities. To do what he did in that side is nothing short of ridiculous.
Yep. You know what? I'm going to say my 2 and 1 here because they're both players you've already said. And I'm terrified because I don't know who your number 1 is going to be. And I think it's someone I've just completely forgotten maybe or not thought of. Number 2, I've got D'Ambrosio, who I thought should have been All-Australian, much like Tristan Sherry. I thought he was the second best wingman in the competition this year. Not just a guy racking up touches. His left foot is silky and he has a work rate like not many others. At number 1, I've got Jake Waterman. I thought he was the most improved player in the AFL this year. Looked like the best forward in the league until Jesse Hogan started tearing up the league in the second half of the year. And him alongside Oscar Allen is going to be a joy to watch next year. Can't wait to watch that. And he was just amazing.
100%. My number 1, someone we haven't mentioned today. I actually got Isaac Heaney as my number 1 player. So yes, he was an elite forward before. He's been All-Australian as a forward. But I think it's extremely hard to go from a top 20 player in the competition to a top 3 player in the competition than it is to go from 250th to maybe top 100th. Like, he's been talked about, like we saw the Max Gawn interview where he said Heaney's been the best player this year.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of people say that. He was on track for the Brownlow. It was ahead by quite some way. Then he got suspended and he sort of had a few off weeks. But yeah, to go from a top 20 player to arguably the best player in the competition this year, you just don't see that sort of improvement that quickly when you're playing a position that you haven't really played before. And to me, what he's doing now, and he could very easily take the Swans team to a premiership, is ridiculous. We didn't expect it.
Yep. Can I tell you, 4 months ago, I told you guys on this podcast, I said Max Gawn is the most intelligent AFL player going around. So believe him when he says that Isaac Heaney is the best player in the competition.
100%. But yeah, let us know if we missed out anyone in our 10. This was a really tough list to make. I wouldn't be surprised if we left a couple guys out from your teams.
Can I reel off some honourable mentions? These guys that I was desperate to get in there that neither of us discussed. Harry Sheasel.
Yeah.
What a season he had. And we already knew he was already the best young player in the league last year, alongside maybe Nick Dacos. He was the rising star, but he rose even further this year, and I think is pretty much a top 10 player in the league. He's that good. He's up there with guys like Zach Butters and Zach Merritt now, with the very, very best midfielders in the comp. Top 10 players. Connor McDonald I've got. Maybe not quite there because he's got to bring some more consistency. I don't think he showed up in finals too much. But when he's on, he is a special player, and I don't think we really saw this until he was allowed to express himself this year. Hayden Young, Zach Guthrie, they're two others that I thought had huge jump-up years. And did you have anyone else you want to reel off?
I have three more names that I just want to list off quickly. I had Kyle Oman as a guy who's massively improved. I had Tom de Koning.
Yep.
Just what he's doing in the ruck this year is ridiculous, and he'll only get better as he grows into his body a bit more. And I had Scrimshaw as well.
Jack Scrimshaw, absolutely.
Has had a ridiculous season, just playing tall. And if Barras comes in and Battle comes in, he'll probably get a much more favourable matchup. So I wouldn't be surprised if he keeps getting better and better and more impactful. But yeah, like we said, I wouldn't be surprised if we missed out on a couple guys from your team, from the Swans. But yeah, let us know down in the comments, and we'll see you all on the next one.